would love to introduce and welcome to the stage the incredible, the reason that we're all here, the incredible Hey
guys, I'm so excited. I personally haven't seen this movie on a big screen in like at least 10 years, if not longer. So seeing it, it's such a difference to me because when we are filmmakers, this is now about content or making stuff for Netflix. We made movies. I mean, this was so cool. I mean, this is made in 1997. We had $40 million to make the movie, to have all the crew, assistants, creativity, working with the directors and the actors, like creating characters. Now it's like slam down, do it now, and whatever, go to Target. So I love celebrating creativity and love of costume, which is, I did Clueless. I was kind of the girl on the block, and I got to do all these fun movies in the 90s, Romy and Michelle, and Never Been Kissed, and I did The Roxbury, and House Bunny, and Chet, and all these girlies movies, And I'm so proud of this film because it celebrates being a woman, being silly, being fun, it's just being yourself. And this is so cool. So I'm so glad you're here, and thank you so much. And I'm so happy to talk to you about it in the Q&A after. So thank you. Cheers. Every time it's like the details, everything that went into it. It was the 90s. You guys didn't have cell phones. You didn't have all the Googles and it was analog. I mean, all the fashions, the way they kind of came around and how we figured it out. Just a different way of processing and filmmaking than we do now. I mean, you really had the time to create and work with actors and directors, and it's just like a different process.
And man, did you create.
Thank you.
So this is obviously part of a larger retrospective of your amazing work. And your breakout film was right before this, which was Clueless. And by the way, Mona has a fabulous book about her work on that film out right now in bookstores.
Passion of Clueless.
Passion of Clueless.
So yeah, so that was 30 years, and this is 28
Yeah.
this year.
So what do you remember about what Clueless kind of unleashed in you, I suppose, and then what it was like to go from there into this film?
Well, Clueless, was my breakthrough film, and it was, I came from Europe, and I'm a fashion designer from, going to school and trade, I guess, in a way. So Clueless was like a dream job because it was fashion and costume design, mixed into the high school and really very rich girls dressing like crazy. But it was still set in high school, so they had to be innocent, they had to be 16, and then when I was offered, after the big success of Clueless, Romy and Michelle, I was like, oh my god, adult girls, they get to really have fun, they go to clubs, they have, it was really cool to kind of dive into women in fashion and have fun, and these California girls, kind of valley girls living in Venice, also designers, also creative, and at the time when, we talked about it in Clueless, when, there were no girl movies. This is before, Legally Blonde, all those movies, so it was really cool.
This is the beginning, yeah.
Yeah, to work on these movies, to show women who are super cool and, have fun in life and were able to be, feminine and strong and just live their life the way they wanted. They were really different times in the 90s, this was kind of the beginning emancipation of women, in New York City, the businesswomen in their tennis shoes and their suits. So this was like the whole another era of just being free.
Mm-hmm. What do you remember about when you first read the script for this movie? I would imagine your imagination gets to run a little wild. They are designers, I don't know how much was described of the outfits, but they're wearing,
it never is. Writers really are not fashion designers. They more emotionally talk about, where are they now? Are they happy, sad? How they figuring their lives, or whatever the stories tell. But I think for me, it's always the script is always the story. Like with Clueless, it was the story, who are these girls? And here, David Merkin was the director who came from animation, and he really didn't know much about fashion. So I really had to kind of create the characters, and the girls were great. Mira is really into fashion. It's a kind of an interesting way of a comedian a little bit. So when I read the script, it was amazing. It was like, oh my god, unleashed creative girls. How fun.
And you're going from teenagers to adults, so you can kind of break it open a little bit, right?
Completely. I mean, the opening scene too of the movie when they like, go to a club in a little chainmail and leopard bustier and fake feather and stuff. Super fun. I mean, it was like I couldn't do it in Clueless.
How many looks were there for that? I think it was like 40.
45.
Yeah.
I think 45. Yeah. I mean, I wish I would do a movie with one look. It's not my fate. I mean, House Bunny I think was like 7 girls at 35, so that was like one of the hardest I think. But this was, what's so fun is really, as a costume designer, this is really my job to tell the story with the clothes, with the costume, and I kind of have a signature of, kind of a bright, bold colors and whimsy. I really love whimsy. I really love kind of like, to me, I have fun with fashion. I love hats, I love boas, I love colors. So it's like, I want to show it on the screen. I want you to come out and just really feel great about it. Maybe even inspired, maybe even, go home and put a boa on or, wear it out the next day. I mean, I don't know. It's like, it's fun. It's about fun, and I think that is, to this day when I make movies, this is the most important thing for me.
Yeah. What's interesting about this movie too is that they are involved in that themselves, right? They make their own clothes, and so you're saying a lot about the character yourself as the costume designer, even more than a typical character, because those choices are so part of who they are. So how did you think of Romy and Michelle? How did you want to communicate who they were through the clothing?
Well, I think they were bold, they were unafraid, I think they had fun, and through all the choices they made, they really never really were timid in any way. They just didn't even think of, they were expressing themselves in a very free way, which is so cool. Because I think there's so much pressure for us. I mean, I think even now more with Instagram and everything else, how do I look? Do I look good? Does it, do people will accept me? And they kind of were just themselves. And that was so cool. So, with the costumes, I could tell the story to people and more fun in a way. And I think, till the end when, I really loved seeing this movie tonight was to remember the message when they just said, forget it. We don't have to pretend. And they put the blue and pink dress in the end when they make the dress, and it was a very simple dress. It was a very, I mean, people who saw here, it's a very simple A-line Empire dress. There's no fanciness to it, so it's again something that's simple, that you can express yourself in a way that doesn't have to be complicated, but fun. How different they were, each one of them. The pink with the boa, Mira wore the silver, little Star Trekky she loves. And they were really like, this is who we are.
One thing I know about you is you will mix high fashion designers with raiding vintage shops, grabbing what you can find.
It's the budget.
But you have a talent for it. So with this film, what was the balance like? Because again, they're not people who can be wearing designer clothes all the time, although.
Yeah, and you have to again remember, you guys, this is 90s. This is not like some crazy big budget. This is not Devils or Prada or anything. I mean, this is before Legally Blonde and all those movies. We were kind of the first female-driven movies at the time. So we were not being, money was not thrown at us in a way. We had to kind of prove ourselves that maybe these movies will make it into the theaters and make some money. So yeah, I mean, I think it was really coming from not having a lot of money, but also being inventive and fun, and kind of what would they do? They were living in Venice. They were not like shopping over there Drive. In the end, they did the store, right? But so this is so fun because it's expressing who they are, how I'm creating the clothes. Very like, okay, I found this in the thrift stores, and I'm going to change it up. I'm going to change the sleeves, put this together, and have something very unique.
When you were rewatching, were there any pieces that came back to you, like the story of how you sourced some of those costumes?
I mean, I'm crazy about boas, and I always want to put boas everywhere. It's so funny because, you work with actresses, and not something the first thing you get in a costume, and I was like pushing it everywhere, and by the end, the girls were like, okay, boa anywhere. So, at the end, we have the pink one, the trim with Mira, but, we start with the beginning of the movie when she has the blue kind of coat with the blue boa. So this was really fun, like experiencing this with actors, and they have to learn who the characters and also personality of the costume designer, and it was really fun. I mean, Lisa is so amazing too because she's a comedian, and they more than an actor, they kind of will play any character, so she could be so ridiculous, and just for the fun of it, and that's really fun because it's very freeing, because, as a costume designer to work with somebody like that.
How did you think about, I suppose, how far to push it in terms of the dance?
It's such a great question, David, because it's so interesting, I think, as a costume designer, especially when you're dealing with comedy, like, what is the line that you walk? And it's such a fine line, and it's somehow, I think now it's innate to me to know what that is. But I think as I was learning at the time, I always had to step back because we didn't want this to be caricature. We never wanted you to make fun of them or feel like they're ridiculous. And I think in all my movies, Clueless, Romy, Michelle, and Weddings, many of the movies that I've done, I think I'm always kind of walking a very thin line. Because too many accessories can take you over the edge. And it's very interesting to balance with hair and makeup. Because I think that, let's say I do well with the costume, but then if they do crazy hair and crazy makeup, you're like, oh. It is a Halloween costume. And to me, what's really important is no matter how far I go, I always want to feel like it's a fashion. There's some, fashion part about it. It's not costume wearing them. And that's really, you really have to take a breath sometimes and, maybe take one thing off.
And these are characters who are out there in the hair and makeup and
Oh my
everything.
God, I know. And then you have the earrings, and then you have the cherry necklace, and then you have this, and then you have the boa, yes, it's a lot. But I think what's so cool too, it's about actors too, and I don't know if there's any here tonight. When you do the fitting, this is so important too, in Clueless, Stacey Dash wearing the crazy Dr. Seuss hat, or, Mira here and Lisa too. When they embody the costume, when they really feel so good about it, this is when I think they can exude the kind of realness in a way, and it's so beautiful to see because, I don't know how many more other actresses could pull this off, like Stacey Dash with this Dr. Seuss hat, or, Lisa Kudrow. Maybe on some actresses it would be so ridiculous you couldn't even do it. So that's a beauty, I think, also this collaboration with actors, It's really kind of cool because it really happens in the fitting room, when you find the right balance.
Did you find you were able to work pretty closely with Mira and Lisa on
Oh
this
my
one?
God, so closely, yes. It was, when you have 34 changes, you spend a lot of time together. You're in the fitting rooms and you have to make sure the shoes work and they can strut and they can feel good. And there's also very interesting balance of the two actresses together. If one doesn't feel more sexy than the other, that the color is balanced, that the kind of sexiness is balanced. They're two very different people, so how do you balance it together? So that was really cool to work with them as well.
How did you think about differentiating those characters? I mean, that's really important in the design, especially I think in the last sequence when we see them kind of come back together. What were some of the important things to sort of differentiate?
I mean, I think that kind of stuff really comes with the script in a way. I think that when you know who these characters are, Mira is the more feminine, she's the designer, she's the most colorful, and then, Mira's kind of the smarter one, so, immediately comes to the more feminine, pinkish color palette to Mira Sorvino, the kind of, blue, male-dominated color at the time. So, we kind of stayed in that lane, and Mira was much more less patterned and, less accessories in a sense. Lisa was always kind of the more feminine. There was also extra stuff for her. So, we stayed that lane. I mean, I think that's very important too because you know who they are. And they liked it too a lot. I think that it was also, they both blonde, so it's nice to have a separated color palette as well. But it was so much fun. You guys, I was like, the one scene that I was watching, the gym scene, at the time there was no gym clothes. They were there was no, Lululemon, which is real boring anyway, but we had to make all the crazy outfits, and then we found these high heel tennis shoes, very big in the 80s, and then you had the DP who was the great shots of just going up the leg and stuff, That's also such a collaborative thing where you have a DP who can be the eye of the fashion in a way, and see the little details for the audience to later to see.
That was true in Clueless too, the way that
Yes.
those looks were, I mean, the way they were shot was so iconic, and obviously those looks have lived on in a way that no one could imagine, as have Romy and
I
Michelle's.
love it, I love it. But yeah, I think it's great to have this collaboration with the DP, you know, how they light it and how they see it, because then all the work that I do is actually, you know, shown on the screen, which is amazing.
I want to ask you about the business suits. They're just right. You know, they're exactly what they should be. So how did those develop? How did those evolve?
Well, you know, again, 90s is different than maybe a woman who would be rich and businesswoman
Probably.
now, but it was so prevalent at that moment, you know, like the skirt suits for women and, you know, the feminine kind of rounded neckline for Lisa, and then Mira had kind of this very Armani, you know, pinstripe suit, but both very short skirts, of course. But I mean, the favorite thing is when they go to get the lunch and they're like, "What business are you in?" So good. So I mean, it was, you know, it was very straightforward in a way because it was still them, you know, it's Romy and Michelle in their business suits, so it was a little bit like super short skirts with high heels.
With the high school flashbacks, was there anything you were excited about kind of bringing it back to the 80s? Anything specific you were excited to bring out there?
Well, I think again it was very important to keep it to the character, you know, showing that like Mira was actually overweight, you know, and then Lisa had the braids, so that was really, but they were still the cool girls. Like if, you know, when I was in the 80s, I was still punk rock, so I would totally connect with those two characters than, you know, the other kind of mean girls in a way. So that was really fun, you know, and then we got to do the prom, you know, which was really the Betsy Johnson, you know, times of dressing, and we had the Madonna influences, which was really fun. So it was really fun to go to the 80s, you know, and I think Mira and Lisa also are at that age where they really had a good time and the, you know, swirling hair, which is, but yeah, it was so fun.
Do you have favorite sightings of how this movie has lived on in the real world? It
Oh
is
my God, Halloween! You guys, I was in like, I think I was promoting my book in Miami last Halloween, and it was like I saw those girls out there, and you know, it was boulevard. So, I mean, this is what's so great. I think, you know, something like that until is living on so many years, and people enjoying the fashions, and you being here, and I think, you know, just something that is again joyful. It's something that just like, okay, we gotta just dress up as best friends and be clueless or be, you know, Romy and Michelle for Halloween. It's so much fun. I mean, I'm just so delighted that I can design something that can live on and influence people.
Do you think it's something that's been a little bit lost in film more lately, that kind of joy and spontaneity and the kind of the way that you design these films?
Yeah, I think so, and you know, I think a lot about that, like what that is, because I work a lot now in a very different way, you know, for Netflix and other uh, places in a way, you know.
Studios.
It's just different. I mean, we were making these movies under the studio system, you know. I mean, we were, you know, we had money and we had fun, and it was like, you know, we had time to shoot. It wasn't a 30-day shoot, it was a 60-day shoot, you know. So we were able to really co-create and collaborate and really think about it and, you know, work with the actors. I think, you know, creative process really needs that in a way. And I think that, you know, with this new Hollywood and new times and everything is just slamming pretty much. I mean, I get actors like day before we shooting, you know, how can you really create something? And then you have to still make the alterations for the next morning, you know, within 6 hours or whatever it is, you know. And I think every department happens. So it's very hard because how can you communicate? And then you have, instead of meetings at a table, you have Zoom, and you're like, can I show you my swatch or Zoom? You know, I don't know. You know, it's a different thing. And you know, I think about AI and all this stuff and the new ways of making movies, which I think, you know, there's certain ways that it's great that everybody could make a movie, but also, you know, for me to work on the set and the acting toward the cardboard box, and you know, we're creating the mood, we're creating the moment that really creates then something. You know, with Amy Heckerling, who's such an amazing director, she created the energy on the set. You know, I mean, she really, that movie wouldn't be anywhere near anything if she wasn't the director and casting it and, you know, hiring me as a costume designer. So like those parts and those components of actually creating art and filmmaking are so important, you know. And I think that's where the joy can come from, and kind of that, if you're just slamming it and you're just like, acting it against cardboard box, I don't know if you can bring that feeling.
Yeah.
It is about that kind of feeling in the room that we are together, with other people who are artists.
Yeah. It's interesting because, as you were saying earlier, those movies that you worked on, a lot of them, budgets were not very high, but you still had the time, and well, as much time as one would have. And you had this kind of creative environment where you had everybody, in more of like a handmade kind of quality, maybe.
I mean, same with Wedding Singer, which is, the next movie to me. Frank Coraci was an amazing director. It was under Adam Sandler, kind of his Happy Madison company. And we made comedies. I mean, it was just like we made these really cool comedies that was respected to make comedies, and it was just different. I mean, I really, I think what's so interesting to me when I, get hired and I'm doing content. I'm a filmmaker, it's hard. It's hard to be just kind of regarded as another co-creator in a way,
With Wedding Singer, was that the first time you worked with Drew Barrymore?
I did Never Been Kissed.
Oh, okay.
I
So
did
you
Never Been Kissed. It was so much fun, you guys. I know it's not this weekend, maybe next time we'll do something next weekend. But yeah, I mean, it was really cool because Drew just started Flower Films, her company. It was her first movie as a producer, and she asked me to do it, and it was Wedding Singer, and it was like, I mean, Adam Sandler was so cool of the time. It was somebody who was such a forerunner of comedies, creating that environment to make comedies, and kind of respect. I mean, it's a genre that I think, like people ask, oh, have you ever been nominated for an Oscar? I never would, because I do comedies. I do contemporary funny films, which are, I think, the questions themselves are very important, and sometimes, like another character in the film, but it's disregarded, as maybe a different kind of art, which I think it's so great to have you all, because this is when we are feeling the best, when we're laughing, when we're feeling, down, and we want to see the favorite movies that we do, that after watching them we feel so good, and like life is better.
With Drew Barrymore, you worked on Santa Clarita Diet more recently. I mean, you've worked with her for an extraordinary amount of time.
Yeah.
I know you work with Alicia Silverstone still. Like, these are relationships.
She was 18 when we met.
Yeah.
Those were like babies.
And you worked with Alicia very recently. Like,
Yeah.
these are people that you've worked with for decades.
Yeah.
What is unique about that relationship with an actor when, like, say, someone like Drew Barrymore, you are kind of constantly creating with them on all these different projects?
Which is again the creativity part, because you have a shorthand and you have a trust. Same if I work with many directors, the same directors, and there's something so cool because they know why they're bringing you and what you bring into the picture. So it's kind of a very relaxed situation. You don't have to worry. You know that we have each other's back, and kind of the creative juice you can bring to something, to the project. And I think for me as a artist, when I have a director or an actor who allows me to kind of bring what I have, I'm not afraid of bringing that thing, because you know how it is when somebody shuts you down, you're like, oh, I don't know, should I bring it or no, maybe I think I'm stupid. So in that kind of more relaxed situation, I think you can be a better artist, because you can bring something super ridiculous, like, to Amy bringing the Dr. Seuss head, and she's like, yeah, cool,
Yeah.
so like, oh, I don't know, this is crazy, what are you doing, Morbe? So that is so fun to work with Drew and Alicia and, so many other actors and directors, because there's just this trust, which I think as an artist, anybody needs that. I think, in any relationship, you kind of need that to kind of be yourself, and what was so cool about Clueless, for example, when you asked me that earlier, like, becoming this artist that I am and having Amy trust me in that movie and letting me kind of be the Monet with the crazy colors and crazy hats. It was very unusual. I was very lucky to have like a first boss like that who kind of let me be. And when the movie came out, I was like, oh my God, this actually works. People like my stuff. So then I was able to go to Romy and Michelle and other movies and kind of be open to just be it and do it, and kind of practices to this day.
Does anyone have any questions for Mona?
Come on, you guys. Yes.
Yes, you in the corner.
What was the
most toughest one was the end, the pink and blue thing, because it was, I wanted to make something really cool. I wanted something for, they were coming out of their closet in a way. They were like, okay, fuck it, this is gonna be us, no matter how ridiculous, how fun, and like, what could that be that's simple, that works, that's youthful, that's fun? And, what is the shape that's good for their bodies? And we know we have this big dance sequence, and, again, being pink for Michelle and being kind of the, sci-fi blue for Romy. It was a challenging job, it really took me a minute to kind of figure out what it is, and I'm so proud of it now in a way because, seeing it on the Halloween Santa Monica Boulevard or whatever.
Definitely Santa Monica Boulevard.
So that was the biggest challenge, really, to create these.
Do you have a specific process when preparing for a film, or do you approach each project differently?
Which each project is different because you have to kind of see the director and see what their process is a little bit, and I mean, I did like movies like 8mm, which is very dark with Nick Cage and Joaquin Phoenix, so that's a whole different thing. I really like with the comedies, I dive into the script, I really dive into the psyche of the character. I always look at fashion because to me the movie's gonna come out a year from now, so I wanna see what's kind of happening. It's a contemporary film, so I kind of hit it more on the mark when the movie comes out and not be dated. But also I think my movies, which is kind of cool, is don't date themselves. There's something about them, there's fashion that's timeless, and that's what I also try to achieve in my film. So I think I blended with the fashion, but also with the character, with the script, who they are, to find that right kind of essence of that person, and something that people maybe can get inspired or emulate in a way. But the story is always the most important thing, who they are and what the story they're telling with their costumes. Because I mean, it's so amazing about, I think, costume design when you have someone on the screen, an actor, and they don't have to say a word, and within 10 seconds or 20 what they're wearing by the costumes,
Very important. Yes.
Kind of adding on to that question, how do you balance like the research that you do for your projects as well as just like your natural like artistic instincts when you're just looking at what you're making?
It's always a blend. I think it's always a blend. I think sometimes you have to take yourself out of the process a little bit too, because there's always gonna be Monet influence and my point of view, but sometimes I have to almost withdraw myself from it too, because I don't want it all to be a certain way Monet. So it's interesting, it's a very balancing act, and I think because film is such a collaborative process, and I am not the final word, the director is. So I bring him with my point of view, but in a way it's his own essence and his own point of view that's gonna make the film, because we are under his vision, in a sense. So it's interesting, and then there's certain things I have to fight for, and maybe I have to explain to certain directors who maybe not know fashion, or why would I put emotionally that dress in there. Male directors are different from female directors. Female may understand fashion more than male directors. So it's interesting. You always have to kind of have a balancing act and figure out, and also fight for certain things that I feel very strongly about, and maybe sometimes I, give away to things because the vision maybe needs that more than a particular script.
Remember anything you fought for particularly?
What do you mean?
Like anything you really felt like you had to fight for to get into a movie that you did get into a movie?
So many. Holy shit. I mean, it's, I think that, I'm a very strong, opinionated person in the way of design and look and stuff, so it's hard. I mean, sometimes I really have to, go in and explain why. I think that even in Romy and Michelle, a lot of times the director, David Merkin, was not into fashion. And then, for him, it was the emotional impact of what they wear. Could not understand it's an A-line skirt or a cap sleeve or whatever, but he was like, oh, okay, that was just right. Just like feeling it. So yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting how we get there.
Time for a couple more. Okay.
Yes, in the back.
It seems intentional, the dream scene of the reunion versus the real scene, especially in the characters that were not Romy and Michelle. So I'm just curious what it was like styling for both of those scenes.
was so much fun. Oh my god! I mean, the dream scene was all like the pastels and the suits I had to make for them, and then they were pregnant. It really was crazy, and we were like, when we were drawing the stuff, it was just so fun. And it's great to work with the production design because they designing all the sets, and then we're making all the kind of like super sherbet colors of everything. And then when you really went to the real reunion, it was like more of jewel tones, so you could really see the difference. But heightening the pregnancy and this like just horrible bad taste on those girls was so much fun. I mean, they were kind of getting back for a lot of the meanness, like how cool they were in high school. So that was really fun, and I love Lisa Loder, who was the fashion designer from Vogue, in her little white Ralph Lauren suit, which was so cool. And it's I mean, it's really like timeless. She could wear it now and it would still be cool. She could go to like the Met Gala probably and be alright.
Time for one more.
Okay.
Yes.
So I always think about when I think of Clueless when Cher's in her closet and she has that AI like
Before AI, darling, and
Yeah,
the computers
who
were
came up
barely
with that
even
idea?
happening. Yes.
I just want to know who came up with that idea because that was like so futuristic.
It was Amy Heckerling, the director. Yeah, she she was from New York, Upper West Side, and she had a friend who had like some kind of a closet like this for wine. Preparing wines. So she was like, preparing wines, preparing clothes, and we started talking. I was like, of course we have to do it. And then we had the idea for the dry cleaning closet, of the rolling thing. I mean, it was so genius. Again, talking about collaboration and being with people in the room and just coming up with these crazy ideas. I mean, I think this is the best. Isn't it the most fun when you're like with friends and you're like brainstorming and having fun and having laughs and this is what's on the screen. I mean, truly, it really is like, I'm gonna see Night at the Roxbury the other, I think it's on Sunday night. I will see you guys. I mean, I peed my pants on the at work because it was just so fun to work with these guys. Same with these two girls. I mean, New York could take 30 takes. I mean, Lisa Kudrow could do 30 takes, and it was so brilliant. Every freaking take. She's just so fabulous.
The last thing I'll say is there are rumors of a sequel, and if Mona May is not on that sequel, I'm not going to be happy. I don't think anyone is going to be happy.
Petition now, please.
You heard it here first. Mona, thank you so much.
Thank you for